morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Bowman. I am actually under criminal investigation by the IRS, if you can believe that. I haven't killed anybody. I haven't stolen anything. But I'd like to explain it because it's pretty bizarre. I would like to start off with a few illustrations that kind of set the stage for things so that you understand. And this is for the judge, the jury, the prosecutors, IRS people, all of you, so that you freely understand where I'm coming from and what I'm talking about. Take my glasses off here. Now, let's roll back 100 years, 75 years actually. Let's go back 70 years to World War II. In World War II, there was a government. And there were people. You put a J there for Jews. And then there were Germans. And the law of the land by the government was that if you were a German, you would kill, torture, turn in, and otherwise snuff out the Jewish people. 6 million Jews died in World War II under atrocities. The people that went along with that followed that law in the Nuremberg trials in 1950, in November of 1950, I believe it was. People stood up, they were tried, and they said, I just followed the law. I just did what I was told. I mean, I'd get shot if I did anything different. Nobody cared. People were hung because they went along with a crime against humanity. Now, they said, I was just following the law of the government. The government is the one that forced that. Well, we took out the government, World War II, but you people, you shouldn't have done that. Now we snap forward to now. And I am over here in this little circle. That's me. I have a government. And this W is for women who want to have abortions. Now, normally if a woman wants to have an abortion, I understand that God gave us all free will. And I understand also that I have constitutional rights, many of them. But the problem isn't me breaking a law. You can spin things certain ways, but the real problem here is this, ladies and gentlemen. This woman has the right to choose, and the government has said accordingly, well, it's your body, you have the right to choose. Of course, once the baby's born, it's forced vaccinations. That's really interesting, without consent, informed consent, even though Nuremberg trials said that every person shall have informed consent, but we'll get to that another time. She has the right to choose. And now the government has said, I have to pay taxes, and the government can do whatever it wants to do. This is where we start getting into the heart of this matter. The government is telling people that have gone to court and said, I can't do this. I cannot participate in this. It violates what I believe. And the judges have said, well, you lose because it doesn't matter. And you know what? On the basis of belief, the judges have ruled correctly. Here's why. Laws do not impact our ability to believe. Laws impact our ability to behave or practice. You got that? Do I need to say that again for you? Do I need to give you some examples? You have to stop at the stop sign. You don't, you get a ticket. You can't shout, fire, fire, fire in a crowded movie theater. Actually, you can, but if you do, there's a remedy for it. If you cause damage, it's called court. If you shout fire, 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 and people get damaged because of what you did, exercising your rights to speech, if someone gets hurt, you cause damage, there's a remedy. It's called court. Right? You don't go out and commit murder. Right? You obey the law. Restricts your behavior. Laws restrict your behavior, your practice, not your beliefs. If the government passed a law that said you have to hate every single Jew, just like they did in World War II, there were lots of Germans that said, yes, Heil Hitler, sure. Then they turned around like Schindler. Schindler's List, they went around and they helped the Jews at much risk to themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, laws do not hinder your beliefs. I am not arguing beliefs. It is beliefs versus practice. And my contention is that by forcing me to have to fund abortion, you are violating my practice of religion. And the Constitution says no law will interfere with my practice of religion. And for a judge to say, Mr. Bowman, you're insane, it's frivolous, I find very hard to swallow, Your Honor, because it's very clear. If the government's going to say it can do whatever it wants to do, then we can just go ahead and put another bubble right here. Put a question mark in it. What if tomorrow what if tomorrow the government passes a law and that law has something to do with judges being terminated if they don't comply with certain policies? In actuality, when the constitutional amendment was passed, interestingly enough, to the 16th Amendment, several federal judges came forward and said, hey, this is totally not legal. You can't lay that on us, because if you can control a judge, if the IRS, if the government has power over a judge to mess with him, you bend our arms and control our ability to make decisions, and now you've strong-armed us. That can't be legal. That can't be constitutional. Violates everything in our system of freedom and justice. It's a backdoor way to violate a judge's behavior. It's putting a gun to the head of a judge. It's a threat. Now, how many judges have ruled and harmed people and squashed people's rights because of threats? Well, we have no idea. But we do know this, that judges do make mistakes. The Supreme Court of the United States said that slavery was legal till it was overturned. Even though stare decisis ruled the day, previous decisions by the courts, we must support them. It was wrong. It got overturned. In most of the Supreme Court decisions, it's like 5-4, right? 5-4. Well, if it was 9-0, that would mean all the judges are aligned on the concept of justice and logic and things make sense. But it's never that way. It's 5-4. That's almost 50-50. What does that tell you? It means half of them got it wrong and half of them got it right. So I don't want my life being in the hands of someone who's going to get it wrong. I think it's very clear. The jury, through its ability with jury nullification, which we will talk about, you have the right, jury members. You are only answerable to God. And according to many of the Supreme Courts, here, quote, the jury has a right to judge both the law as well as the fact in controversy. John Jay, First Chief Justice, U.S. Supreme Court, 1789. Quote, the jury has the right to determine both the law and the facts. Samuel Chase, U.S. Supreme Court Justice, 1796, signer of the unanimous declaration. Quote, the jury has the power to bring a verdict in the teeth of both law and fact. Oliver Wendell Holmes, United States Supreme Court Justice, 1902. Quote, the law itself is on trial quite as much as the cause which is to be decided. There you go, the law itself. Harlem versus Stone, 12th Chief Justice, U.S. Supreme Court, 1941. And I can go on. The point is, you as a jury, you're the safety valve against political corruption and the loss of our constitutional rights. And some people say, well, it's not fair. Mr. Bowman hasn't paid his taxes. Listen, I've paid a lot of taxes in my life. But I had the realization there was something wrong in my life. And I'll tell you what it was. When I was a youth, I made a mistake. And a girlfriend of mine and me went through an abortion. And it haunted me for 10 years. And everyone that you interview in my family and friends will tell you, it tore me up. I was a wreck. because I knew I had taken a life. I know I have a child in heaven that I have not seen. I'm not repeating it. Okay? Daniel in the lion's den, a story from the Bible. King Nebuchadnezzar made a law. The law basically said, you won't worship any god except me. Daniel couldn't live with it. Daniel practiced worshiping in his private chambers. He was arrested. He was thrown into the lion's den. The king actually liked Daniel, but the king had to live with this decree. The point is, laws restrict your ability to practice a lifestyle. You could pass a law that says, if I was in Germany and they said, Michael, you will hate the Jews, right? You're never going to change my beliefs. You could lock me in a box and drown me in the ocean. You will never change my beliefs or anyone else's. Laws do not impact your beliefs. They do not hinder your beliefs, but they change your practice. Now, in religion, there's praise, which is singing to God, and there is worship, which is obedience to God. And as it says in Acts 4, we must obey God rather than men. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and Your Honor, and Mr. Prosecutor, I can take that G out and put an N for Nazi, and I can put a J up there. And I ask you, what's the difference? You are forcing me to kill. You want me to pay to kill. Now, 100 years ago, we would not have had this problem because this link would not have existed between the government and the woman. But the government has so far exceedingly expanded its operation. You are now asking us to pay and support things which we may not believe in, but that's not the problem. It impacts our practice. We can't get on one knee. We can't go through a day-to-day life. We can't worship God, get on with our life, make plans, be free of conscience, and live with a clean conscience. Let me ask you, Your Honor, and members of the jury, if I had the authority to pass laws, a law that said that you had to personally go get a handgun and go out and kill red-headed stepchildren that you saw, and you had nothing to say about it, you just had to do it, how would you live? How would you feel? Would you be able to live with yourself having, well, how about just pay for it? You are forced to pay for the guns, the ammunition, in this case, knives, scalpels, and emergency rooms or doctor's offices, salaries. You are forced to pay to kill. How do you reconcile? How do you live? How do you practice your life and get on unfettered? I'd really like to know, because I can't. So the problem here is that the government has taken on tasks or things that it had no business doing, and now it is crossed over into practice. And that is the problem here. The problem is not me. The problem is that G is doing things which are impacting everybody in this box. Just like in World War II. So take a good long look at it, ladies and gentlemen. Take a good long look, because all I'm doing is putting an N there, and I'm going to take this W out of here, and I'm going to put a big J for Jew, okay? And I'm going to remove the me here, and I'm going to put us, you and me. If you and I lived in Nazi Germany and they were forcing us to kill Jews, that is exactly what's going on right now. And 55 million babies have died in the United States since I was born, thanks to abortion. 55 million. I don't want to pay for that because it screws this aspect of my life up. That is it in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. And Your Honor, if you're going to sit there and say I violated a law, I'm telling you this. Whatever law you say I'm violating, which I don't believe, it is unconstitutional. Now, it might be constitutional for someone next door who's got no religious practice. They might be an atheist. They may just have no conscience. But for the rest of us, it's a violation. Did you ever think about that? Makes perfect sense to me. Now, what about stopping at a stop sign? I heard a judge say, well, you can't say that you can't stop at a stop sign, Mr. Bowman. That's ludicrous. I'm not advocating that. Because if I don't stop at a stop sign, I'm going to kill somebody. Do you understand? So, I don't want to kill people this way. And if I'm going down the road and I decide not to stop at this little stop sign here in my little car, and there's a person standing here or another car coming down the road, and I fail to stop at that stop sign, I'm going to kill somebody. I'm going to damage somebody. So I comply with that law. I comply with that law because I don't want to kill anybody. Because it interferes with my practice. So to sit there and say, well, you have to kill people because if you didn't stop at a stop sign, if we let you out of this, Mr. Bowman, then you can just not stop at a stop sign. That's insanity, Your Honor. I'm telling you, I cannot be forced to kill if it violates that. And stopping at a stop sign isn't violating anything for me. I stop at a stop sign to save lives. And that's how it is. So the question here, Your Honor, I know that the previous judge has said, well, on the basis of belief, you know, I think I read it, right? This is what I received from the IRS guy. And if I go to page 23 of it, and I'm quoting, it's in yellow, I've highlighted it. Some individuals or groups claim that taxpayers may refuse to pay federal income taxes based on their religious or moral beliefs. Based on their religious or moral beliefs. Again, your beliefs aren't the issue. It is your practice of religion that's at stake. The behavioral aspects. Now, interestingly enough, I took Oregon to court, and I'll tell you why. 15 years ago, I called the Chief Justice Carson, Mr. Carson at the time, and I talked to him about this. And I said, I found a law in the books which is unconstitutional because in Oregon it says no law shall in any case whatever interfere with my rights of conscience or practice of religion. In any case whatever. No law. And I said, I found a law that's unconstitutional. Mr. Carson said, and I'm quoting, he said, son, it is your duty to go to court and have those laws removed because there's plenty of laws on the books that are unconstitutional and they need to be thrown out. Close quote. So I took Oregon to court. And I almost went to the Supreme Court, but through some trickery, they said, oh, we never got your notice. They switched the address. It was the office next door. It was really convenient. Really convenient what they did. They could have just opened the door and handed it to the other people. But through some trickery, they made my thing run out of time. I don't think they wanted it to go to the Supreme Court. That's my opinion on the matter. But in the case, in my appeal case, the judge made the distinction that belief and practice were the same thing. And I said, oh, wow, that's really good. Now I can go to the Supreme Court. And I can tell the Supreme Court, well, Your Honor, the Constitution says that I have the ability to practice, but he's telling me that belief and practice are the same. So, Your Honor, I'd like to take those two words now and go inject those into the Constitution. Now it says, now it's no longer protect my religious practice, but now it's no law shall in any case whatever interfere with Michael Bowman's conscience or his beliefs and practice of religion. So he just added one more component to the Constitution in his appeal. And I think once they realized that, because I filed my Supreme Court paperwork, and I think once they saw that, they were like, oh my God, how are we going to get out of this? So ladies and gentlemen, again, belief, I'm telling you, it's about your practice. Because laws restrict our ability to behave. Just like the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all your heart, mind, and soul. You get it? Get where I'm going with this? He didn't say anything about what you should or should not believe. It's about practice. And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, Mr. Prosecutor, Mr. IRS, you have a duty to protect my constitutional rights, to practice religion with a clean conscience. And the law might be valid. I don't think it is, but the law might be valid for an atheist, but it sure as heck isn't constitutional for me, because you are definitely stepping on that. Because you are forcing me to be an accessory to murder, just like in Nazi Germany. And I have a choice. Do I comply and get shot 20 years from now in some Nuremberg #2 trial? Or do I stand my ground and stick up for myself and do the right thing so that I can practice and be righteous and clean? That's the choice I have to make. And it's a tough one, because at stake is you taking me away from my son and damaging his life because I stood up for my constitutional rights to practice religion. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you don't do that. I'm asking that you do jury nullification, which is the most important thing in the world. All laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. That's Mayberry versus Madison, 5 U.S. 137, 174, 176. It was in 1803. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rule making or legislation which would abrogate them. Miranda versus Arizona, 384 U.S. 436, page 491. Norton versus Shelby County, 118 U.S. 425, page 442. An unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties, affords no protection. It creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed. The general rule is that an unconstitutional statute, though having the form and name of law, is in reality no law, but is wholly void and ineffective for any purpose, since unconstitutionally dates from the time of its enactment and not merely from the date of the decision so branding it. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. 16 AM Juror 2D Section 177, LATE 2D Section 256. And I can go on. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to stand up for my rights. This is not about Michael not paying his fair share. You stop doing this, you put the government back in its box the right way, so I'm not impacted, and we'll build a brave new world. I'm Michael Bowman, and that's what I'm asking for justice. Thank you.